Hi, Zdravo Site. My name is Matt Murray, and I worked on the English translation of Elena's About a Brief Urban Love That Feared Calling Itself Like That. And just wanted to share with everyone here, first of all, congratulations. What a great experience. And wanted to share with everyone just one of the biggest joys of working on the English translation of Elena's poetry is that so many words in her poetry transcend meaning based on their sound alone. And this really struck me reading this because that's so difficult to do in one language, but to manage to do that in two languages is quite an achievement. And that's definitely not to take away from the meaning. The meaning, in the words that she chose were incredible. I was just surprised, right? I didn't expect for just the sounds of the words to come across so striking. And just to encourage everybody, just as you read poetry, and poetry is meant to be read. Pay attention to how Elena goes about constructing these sounds that she uses, and it's fascinating. It was a joy to experience firsthand. But I really appreciate Elena's poetry for other reasons too, because I have a background in Macedonia and even living in Skopje, so it was fascinating. I appreciate working with anybody from Macedonia selfishly, because it takes me back to that place that I miss so much, but also that's so hard to find outside. It's such a genuine place. I've lived in New York and I live in California now, and it's hard to get even just a little chunk of what exists in Macedonia. So any way that can keep that connection alive, I appreciate. But so of course I appreciate also just how reading her poetry just gave me the sights and the smells of what it's like to live in Skopje. But I also really appreciate it because it transported me not just to another place, but in many ways it took me to another time, right? It took me to a different time in my life, even. Things were confusing in different ways when I was younger than I am now. Her poetry took me back to some of those times in my life that I found really interesting, and it was kind of revisiting these memories was like getting in touch with old friends. And I really appreciated that about Elena's poetry, about how it truly took me to this different time period in my life, and so much of what I was going through or thinking about at that time, it brought those thoughts back in a way that was, again, unexpected. I love the unexpected in the poetry. That's one of the things that I appreciate the most about Elena's poetry. And I guess in finishing, I could go on all day probably about this poetry and this experience of being asked to translate, or not even to translate, but to read. Macedonian is not that good, right? But to be able to read this translation and do some proofreading and offer feedback or suggestions and how it sounds in the English language. It made me think that it's her poetry is so beautiful because again, not just the words and the sounds, but the way it leaves you with a sense of wonder. And what an accomplishment for poetry, right? That no matter who you are or how you are coming to it, that you leave in a state of wonder. That you take that wherever you and your life may go. But what a gift for anything to be able to do that for you, and a gift for being asked to participate in this. So thank you again for asking me. I wish I could be there. Next time I'm there, I'll give you a big hug. Pozdravia, Site, and celebrate, because you really accomplished something fantastic here with your poetry, and I look forward to everything that you create in the future. Thank you again, and say no above. Thanks.